Hey folks, Austin here with Fuzzy Builds, and today we're going to build my very first coffee table. This one is for my own personal use, so there are a few little minor issues that come up in the end that I'm okay with for the time being, considering it's the first one I've ever done, and I'll address some of that other stuff, I guess, in future builds. So I hope you like it. Take a look. This is all brand new to me. I'm just starting out, so I'm trying to figure out the cameras and audio and all that sort of stuff. So please bear with me. Hope you enjoy it. I'll try and stick to fairly decent commentary. And yeah, we'll go from there. So I found out when I first started doing this that walnut is a very messy wood. Anywhere where there's knots or, any sort of, I don't know, crotches or anything like that where things started growing from or out of, yeah, you get all this little black, barky kind of stuff, which is a little bit on the frustrating side. Part of a walnut shell here. Thought that was kind of interesting. Found it buried in this area right here. And if you're new to all this, so was I when I started doing it, or this particular one. Yeah, so it was a good learning experience for me. I realized that early on that I quite enjoyed this. Lots of fun. And as I'm going along here, I didn't know how much to take off. I wasn't sure, do I keep this dark brown stuff or not? And then I'm like, oh, it seems pretty flaky, so probably should get it out. So I learned some of the stuff watching another YouTuber do resin tables and stuff. I apologize if the lighting's a little off on some of this stuff and the focus is not correct on some of this, as being new and learning and all that sort of stuff. I do find it satisfying though, watching peeling bark off of wood. Wood. I honestly didn't think it was going to be this in depth or intense of a process. This took me far longer than I thought it was going to. So these are two slabs that are 5/4 thick, and I'm just wanting to. They're bookend pieces, which means that they were cut right next to each other. So my process here is I want to create a table using both of the most unique features of the table. I don't have any fancy track saws or anything, so this is what I got. It was a found track guide, I guess it's what it's called. Yeah. So right here, I'm just sealing everything, trying to make sure that, for lack of a better word, sealed. If you don't seal it, you're going to have an immense amount of bubbles that will essentially never be able to be taken out. So by sealing it, you basically stop the influx of all the epoxy from trying to seep in when you have it in the mold. So this is me, now that it's all dried or whatever, it's just me scuffing up the area just to try and make sure that the new epoxy adheres to the table. This little tip here broke off, so I'm just trying to get her glued in just to make, I don't know, I think just that little accent I think looks good. So hopefully it translates well in the resin. So I built that mold out of some melamine and tuck tape. Seems to work okay. So if you look, I put the board straight across the whole entire 2 pieces of wood, and I found out later on that that was a bad idea, because if you notice, I didn't pop any of the bubbles in the epoxy beforehand. You can see it's pretty foamy, and I thought, oh hey, this will be okay, I'll just use a torch and get rid of all the bubbles. Unfortunately, the epoxy is saturated with bubbles on many, many, many layers. So it takes me quite a while to get out all the bubbles. And just filling in all these extra little holes. Got the old torch out to pop these bubbles. Like, I mean, even after the first 2 or 3 goes, the bubbles weren't all popped. Okay, we're all done here. I'm just breaking apart the mold. And that's when I realized that having the board straight across was not a good idea. So the problem is you have bubbles that form underneath that will not pop with a torch. So yeah, it was quite the challenge to deal with. So if you enjoy the content and would like to see more, I would appreciate a like and subscribe and all that sort of good stuff. But I mean, let's wait until you see most of it and hopefully you enjoy it. And then if you feel like I've earned it, please feel free and hit the likes button, subscribe, and make a comment. Comments are good. Comments help me out. So does liking and subscribing helps me out. It means very little to you, but it means a lot to me. Yeah, came out nice and smooth. And that was just using some mold release. So there you can see the holes from that from the epoxy, and I've got a very thin table as it is. It's only 5/4, so there wasn't a lot of wiggle room. This is me just using pencil mark to just to get things ready before I sand it, so that I know where I'm sanding. So just an FYI on this, if you can have a vacuum attached to your sander, I highly recommend it, because you will see shortly I do not have one, or at the time of making this I did not have one, and it made a heck of a mess. So I'm going to try and essentially bolster the size of the table here by adding pieces onto the bottom of it. Yeah, I forgot to record as I was cutting, so then you got that little snippet there. So those are the two pieces that are going to flip underneath, just like that. I purchased these machinist squares and I find them so helpful, and they work so well in making sure everything's square. There you go. I have no affiliation with anything as I'm just starting out. I got no links in my description. If you guys would like to see links in the description, please let me know. If you want to know where I've gotten anything, again, I'm not getting any kickbacks or anything for any of this stuff. But if you'd like to know, let me know. I will put them in the description in the next videos and stuff of the stuff I use. Marking everything down, making sure everything fits right. Make sure I got all my numbers associated with where I want the pieces to go. And now we're going to glue it all down. One side done, two sides, three sides. Got them all done. And now it's just cleanup work, sanding, making sure everything looks good. You can see my sander there is just covered in sawdust. So I was watching a video a while ago and the guy recommended always cover up your pieces, and that helps with warp avoidage. Clean up your mess, I always say. No, I don't really. Anyways, so now we're going to get the router on here, use some double-sided tape to stick it down, and then we're going to flatten the backside. Yeah, see? If you don't have glasses on, make sure you put some on. Last thing you need is a splinter of wood in your eye. Or better yet, if you're an idiot and don't know enough to put safety glasses on, just avoid using power tools. Yep, a little messy. You can see the clouds of sawdust. I wish I could clean my house that fast. Okay, now to try and address these. So we're going to use some CA glue and some activator. And for the most part it worked out. I know it seems like you can see all those holes still, but as soon as you put on some stain, they disappear, those little things. Now again, doing some more scribbles. Doing a round over on the edge. And I didn't stick the table down, so my table's deciding to slide all over the place. But it's all trial and error. I mean, you don't learn anything if you don't do it. Just giving everything a light sand. I definitely do not recommend doing what I'm doing here with the sanding at the end. I recommend sanding your corners by hand. I'm just applying some Rubio Monocoat Pure and getting it all dressed here on the bottom side. All nice and cleaned up. Flip her over. And I apologize, you can see my back but can't really see the wood piece because still trying to figure out angles, as this all being new to me and everything. I just rub this stuff on, leave it sit for a few minutes, probably good 7 to 10 minutes, and then buff it off. I like this technique where you have a couple shop towels in your hands, so you're not using your hands on the table. I mean, ultimately, I don't think it much matters, but I mean, it definitely makes for easier cleanup with two in your hand. The only buffer I have is my two hands. Does a great job. There's nothing wrong with just using your hands if you don't have a buffing wheel. Okay, so that's pretty much my, okay, so that's my tabletop there. So here's what these little bubbles look like now. There's one little piece left there. It's got basically an air pocket underneath it, and I was okay with that. That was completely fine. Most of the other ones were completely, can't even really tell at all anymore. So I was happy. It's just going to be in my living room, so I'm happy with the way it turned out, for especially for being the first one I ever did. So here's some edge profile. There's that little dot again. There's one little dot on the other side too. Right there's a dot. Yeah, there you go, folks. I hope you like it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it and you were entertained, please hit that like and subscribe button. It would mean the world to me. Thanks very much for watching.